I'm here with Junkbuck, the director of competition, no longer head coach of the Houston Outlaws. I guess that would be my first question. What does a director of competition do?
Oh yeah, so the director of competition, I know a lot of people had questions about it or confused by it. So to compare it to like a normal sports, there'll be like director of operations or director of athletics. So in a lot of this like sport business, there's gonna be like the business operation side, and then there's gonna be the team side aspect. And so basically I'll be working with the operation and business side people more, and then communicating with them to better make everything more smooth out, I guess. So yeah, but then since we're not really like athletics, we just use the term competition. So it was just more for like our company is to keep track of things. Yeah, so that's why it's the director of competition. Yeah.
Right. But you're still going to be involved with the team. Are you still going to coach?
Oh yes, yes. So basically, I am still be heavily involved with coaching. I'll be working with Neko. So Neko will be the head coach.
Right.
Yeah.
Why Neko?
So yeah. So basically, the one aspect of it is, in the end, I'll be trying to help the coaches as much as possible. Oh, and so I also see it as the director role. I see it as is also training people. So it'll be a role where I'll be trying to help and develop Neko to be more independent. So I kind of wanted to uh find someone who I can rely more on, and basically, how should I put it? It's kind of hard trying to organize my
Mhm.
thoughts real quick. But basically, Neko. The reason why we got Neko was, I kind of wanted to have a role that, what's the word, the interaction that that was in my mind, that was basically similar to how I worked with, for example, like a Krusty or 9K. So I want to create that dynamic again. And so I think Neko obviously have worked with Krusty before, and also I heard a lot of good things about him, his work he did in Hangzhou as well. And so that's why we got Neko. And then I want to give the more responsibility. Basically, yeah, maybe that would be the good way to put it. In the end, I want to give more responsibility to the person where they can have like more control.
Makes sense. So would you say this is a transitional career year for Neko? And then how much input did he have on the roster?
On the roster, actually, what was it? He had more of a say towards the end. What was it? In the beginning, the player process and then the finding the coach process was kind of at the same time. So yeah.
I mean, I assume he isn't too upset with the roster you've
Yeah, yeah.
assembled. Right. But okay, so initially it looked like you guys were on a different path because you renewed Danteh. And then later on, I mean, now we can all say, like, this is a good, fun story now. Danteh found a home. Like, everyone's happy, right? But there must have been a different plan in place, right? For a while.
Yeah. So basically each year when we go to off season, I have a lot of like different plans. We'll have like a plan, option A, option B, option C. I'll always create a roster for like a budget roster. I'll have an option for that. I'll have an option for like a very good team, or like a second choices for those teams, and so definitely we kept all the options open this year as well. And so Danteh was definitely an option that we always would want to consider. We especially I consider highly of Danteh as one of the best players in the league still. So that's why we're able to trust him with the tank role this year, for example. And then that actually kind of shook up the whole league in a way where like every player is starting to up role. I think Danteh gave more confidence to all the players in that aspect. So I think so that's why we want to keep Danteh, especially. This is kind of like a side note thing, but like I always a lot of the years there were players that I wanted to keep going again next year, but then it just ends up being in that we couldn't because whether it be budget issue or like a player option issues or things like that. So definitely Danteh was a player where we felt like we grew together. We were able to develop him. So the next year will be the year where we actually make a use out of all the development we worked on together. But then he'll end up going to another team and then bloom his potential. Well, after going through the typical process in our team. So that's why we would want to have kept Danteh just like our players in previous years where we developed them. Now we just next year will be where the full potential comes out, but we just couldn't. But yeah, but the direction we're thinking with Danteh, the whole roster was also getting more. Didn't make sense for us in terms of like budgets or whatever logistics kind of things. So yeah. That's where it was.
Right. It sounds like you trust Danteh to take on the full tank role. Like he doesn't have a second tank on the Gladiators. Do you think that's going to work for them, or are you a little bit skeptical?
I think it definitely works for him. I think Danteh is actually really good. He'll be able to learn all the roles, all the tanks easily. So no issues there for them. So I kind of feel bad. Like, Gladiators got such a good deal. Being able to get Danteh.
Right now, arguably, at least for right now, you have a tank player that also hasn't played the entire hero pool. I think yes. The Fearless Hamper situation was always like an embarrassment of riches for Dallas, right? It's and I in my mind, if I'm Fearless after this year, I also feel like I probably like as much as we had success, it's fine, but I also want to be a starting main tank on a great team. Mm-hmm. And I understand that I can't play ahead of Hanbin in like Zarya matters or in like, even Junkbuck matters maybe. But like this is holding my legacy back. So what is it easy to get Fearless?
So with Fearless, actually, when we talked with him, well, this is like supposedly Fearless, because Dallas had a huge roster, so they were able to do a lot of internals last year, and supposedly Fearless did really well in all the tanks. So it's something that we'll have to see in scrims as well. If it was actually, but to start off with, was it easy to get Fearless? I guess at the end of the day, I think we both wanted each other. Fearless wanted to come to our team. We wanted Fearless as well. So I think it worked out very smoothly. So in that aspect, it wasn't that difficult, I guess. Basically, Fearless, I have enough like a faith in him. I consider him really, really good. He might not have like the experience or the mechanical or as good mechanically as other off tanks on the off tank heroes, but I think why I rate Fearless so high is his understanding of the game is actually insane. Like it's one of the things people don't probably consider. Well, I also rate that aspect of the quality not as high before. I one of the things I focus a lot was like the pure mechanic, and then we can coach or practice enough where we can become more like smart and coordinating. But I think especially after it became Overwatch 2, and especially if you look at success of the teams that were the teams that had success in recent years, that quality I started rating it a lot more. The being able to recognize, read the game, read the flow, like rather than like if you go in or you're gonna get a kill or not, knowing that was it good to go in at that moment or not, that kind of thing. What did the enemy team want to do certain thing or not? So that decision making was I started rating that more important. So I think the fearless, what was it? Even if you're not to be like as crazy mechanical god like on the off things, I think just him being at the right place at the right time will benefit more in that aspect. So I think I'm not that worried about fearless.
Sweet. Does that mean you're not getting a backup tank?
The sixth player, we're still, what was it, open. We'll put it until we release. What was it, announce? I'll just put it at that. We'll leave open. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Neko announcing his return to player career. Even though I think, like, especially the support role, I think you guys are golden.
It'll be Bishu coming back.
True, yeah. Because you guys picked up Violet, and
yes,
that's a big pickup. That is one of the few that actually solves your backline. I feel like I don't think there are many people with or players you could have recruited with the ability to both cover the main and the flex supports, even though like that role is converging. Violet is just ahead of the curve. How did you pull that off?
Yeah, the Violet. How did I pull it off? In the end, it was a lot of things had to happen at this simultaneously, because we were also looking at other options, obviously. So even if you're not to have gotten Violet, we had like this different options open that were available to us that we felt good going with along with as well. But with Violet, obviously some things happened in Shock, and then some things happened with Violet, and while that was going on, was it I guess after that happened, Violet also liked working with me, and so I liked working with Violet. Violet might have a reputation where the people might now have a difficult time working with him or whatever, but I never had that issue. So I like working with Violet. So yeah, it worked out pretty smoothly, I would say. Yeah.
Makes sense. You talked about having other options. Of course, like the league mill has been dripping the entire offseason. One name was brought up with you guys. Did you guys talk to Skewed at all?
Yeah, Skewed we definitely talked with as well. We talked to Skewed would have been also really good option. If he had gotten Skewed, there were also options. Should we get another main support, or are we gonna try to develop him into playing main supports like Violet and Lastro did? So there we're weighing out different like pros and cons for every option, but I think everything we felt comfortable with, whether it will be going with Skewed or not going with Skewed, or if you were to get Skewed, developing him into main support or getting a new main support or everything like that. Yeah. In the end, maybe it's still because how Lastro ended up being was so successful. Maybe we think it's easy, but maybe it's actually hard. So if you're to have done it again, maybe we would have failed. Who knows? But yeah, I think. Yeah, because Lastro was so good. Because maybe in the end, Lastro was just a god. So maybe that's why it was able to work. So, but yeah. See, all the good players we developed there ended up going to Glads.
To be fair, you also took some good players from Glads.
True.
and right, so let's talk about that guy. I feel like if you tell people Violet Shoe as much as like Season 4, then everyone's like, okay, this is a cheat code, right? Like,
yeah.
And I imagine, I think in my mind, I recognize I'm really guessing your players up here, but I'm especially about Shu. I would say he's probably the best flex support of the last 2 years at least.
Mhm.
How like he I think his contract probably ran out with Gladiators. He's on the open market. How do you convince a guy like that to buy into your project?
Actually, the shoe. Actually, I wanted to get. Oh, actually, along with Fearless, when I first came to Houston, the players we tried to get in the very beginning was Fearless and Shu, but we failed back then. But then this year we were able to. In the end, we reunited. I guess after 2 years of wanting to work with them. In the end, I guess they know I like them. They know that I rated them high even before they became the best players in their respective role, and so I guess there was that mutual respect between the both parties after them also realizing that Houston can be a good team along with we also have like a good players as well. So yeah, so that's how everybody was able to gather here.
Do these players of that quality make any requests as to like who to get? Let's say you're getting hypothetically. I mean, you have 3 superstars at some point. You know, like one of them is probably like the last in line.
Mm-hmm.
Do the first 2 then make some demands like we'd like to play with X, Y, and Z? Is that some like did anyone request anyone that ended up?
That is very common. That is very common. I think that also happens with a lot of the players we didn't get. Well, the players we were in talks with along with that. So that can be also a factor where we might not getting a player that could be or not go with him again. So that can be like one of the reasons, like budgets of the players wanting to play with certain players. So that is very common for our team. What was it? There were some kind of requests, but all the players were also, as long as it was just another good player, I think most of the players didn't mind that much. The players we ended up getting, they didn't mind. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
now,
but that definitely does. A lot of the players we tried to get, they wanted to play with specific players, so that ended up not going through.
Yeah, makes sense. Now you also have one player that came back, and that's an interesting one. So for me, I think first half of the season, ignoring Lip and ignoring that Proper didn't play much hit scan, Happy looked like the best head scan last year. I thought when Glads picked him up, that was
cheating.
That was too much almost. Like
that was too much. They were cheating.
I felt like they were like they were in a position where that could have really changed the meta. It ended up, or the outcome of the league. It didn't end up mattering as much. And I would even say, in my honest opinion, I think Happy underperformed a little bit. Are you concerned at all for that?
Well, actually, I'll start from my experience with Happy first, and then I'll goes and talk about what I thought of Happy later. So when Happy first joined our team, actually, when the very first time I saw Happy in the tryout in the 2 years ago, what was it? He was good. He did the best in our tryout, so that's why we ended up getting him. But then he was very, very underrated back then, right? And so. And then after he joined our team, then I realized he was even better than I thought. And he was, it's just to describe him, he's one of those players where he's his aim is obviously good, but then that's not even his strongest point. It's his aim is actually still one of the top tiers, and he has what a lot of the god hits can lack: the movement, the read, the reading the opponent basically. So Happy is so underrated in that aspect. And so he was. I think he actually underrates himself actually. He thinks, oh, I'm such a bad tracer, even though he's probably like disregarding like all the tracer, especially like Capster proper, Yaki or whatever. I think he is the best tracer of all the hit scans, for example. But like Happy's underrates himself. I think all the teams underrates him. So
Better than Lip?
what was that?
Better than Lip?
On Tracer?
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, okay, I haven't seen Lip's Tracer that much, so I can't say that much because whenever we play against Lip, he was always on his scan. So I actually never seen Lip's hit Tracer, but yeah. So Happy's that kind of player. So in Washington Justice, I think I thought he was one of the players that was carrying the Justice. In Glads, I think he did underperform in the Glads. I don't know why, to be honest, in that aspect. It couldn't be a lot of different factors. It couldn't be like the direction of the team, so they were trying to give more emphasis on other players or things like that. But yeah, who knows what happened in Glads? But I think even because if it could be that he might not be as experienced as Sojourn, who knows? But he did well in Washington on Sojourn, so who knows?
Not enough emphasis is an interesting one because I felt like for a long time that Pelican was your clear star player. I think superstar player in that regard. Feel like there's a lot of counterweight now, right? Like you have a lot of star power on that team. Yes. Is like just generally speaking, I know this doesn't translate well into Overwatch strategy because you have to take meta into account, but in your mind, like in the average meta, do you think Pelican is the one that should be receiving more resources than your other hard carries?
So how I coach the team in generally, it just depends on what looks good to me in scrims. Does it look good for the hero that Pelican's playing to get a lot of resources? Then I'll go with that. If it's so, in the end, for me, I don't consider like see it as like players individual like their characteristics. I just see it from like what I'm a very result or like what happens in the scrim. I make a lot of judgment from what I see in the scrims.
Makes sense. Now, try to poke a couple of holes into where according to you there would be additional players needed, because technically you still need to sign one other player. You're telling me like Happy apparently like also has a great tracer. Fearless can learn everything. Of course, like Violet is covered. Still, I think like for instance, it has never happened really in the history of Overwatch, but there's a possibility of a double flex meta. There could be I mean there's still the possibility of, I don't know, let's say a Zarya meta. That may be something I would expect to be a little bit weaker. Maybe Sigma, we haven't also seen much. Can you give us a hint as to what kind of problems you still need to solve?
So since we do definitely have time until the season starts and like the deadlines for the player signings and things like that, we'll definitely scrim and see what kind of heroes or like what kind of areas we lack, and then we'll probably decide from there. I would say I'm a guy who's like very, very. I have to see the scrim, then I make a lot of decisions or I see a lot of things from the scrims. So. Okay.
So
I'm not a very theoretical guy.
Is it fair to say that you have a couple of players in mind, but there's no ink on paper right now?
Yeah, there are definitely players in my mind. Even the players, there's always a player in back of my mind. Actually, yeah. Even for a role that we don't need, I'll consider. That player is a very good value player. He should be on the team. If I didn't have this player, I would get him. Or like if something happens, I want him. Things like that.
For sure. Now you said you got some time until the season start and whatnot. Do you consider the ProAm as the season start?
I see more as like event match, more of so than like something too serious. I think it's still like a really good opportunity to like have an experience working with newly formed teams and things like that. Test out different metas. Test out basically a really good testing ground. Basically, that's kind of how I see it.
For sure. So, how many blocks are you guys scrimming? Are you scrimming already? And if so, how
Yeah,
many?
we recently started. We're not scrimming to like 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 a season, right? So we're like keeping it very chill. What was it? Just playing whatever, since we don't even know what patch we're gonna play on and things like that. So we're just doing whatever. It's more like a just getting used to know each other kind of feel yet. So the ProAm tournament will be like the next step in that process. And yeah,
It should be very interesting because I feel like there's probably like 5 or 6 teams that have built very good teams this year, right?
yes.
So like, I feel like you in any other year your lineup would be insanity, but then there's also Boston, and then there are you new guys from Shock as well, and like even Atlanta looks amazing. We never know what Toronto is capable of there. So who do you think will be your biggest competition at the end?
No, normally other years I would consider we had one of the most successful off-season market of all time. We created the super team, but then obviously a lot of the teams they're all really strong this year now. So I think the because the gap between the good teams and worst team got bigger, that made the top side more competitive because all the talents got more crowded into the half of the team. So even like a bad team last year like NYXL, they still had like really good players and things like that, or like a lot of the bad teams still had good players, but now like all the bad teams have no good players. They all moved to good teams. So and so I think all the teams actually are really good. Like obviously you said like the Shock, Toronto, what was it?
Boston?
Boston, Atlanta, Glass. I think they're all gonna be really good. But I think the team I would say would be the best would be like the top 3 team among those teams would be who would be? I think Shock is obviously gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
Glads are kind of I think underrated. I think the people, I think Glads are. I think I wonder why. Is it because of the support? But last row is insane, and Danteh is like really good too, and their all DPS are so obvious really good. So I think guys are kind of underrated. I think they're at that level too. That's like the really god team. Atlanta good, obviously. I would say maybe and Toronto. Maybe those 4 teams I would say are the strongest teams. I would say in my mind. Yeah.
So what about Boston? Do you think that experiment works out where they have a bunch of Overwatch League winners?
This is something. Okay, I'll get spicy.
Here we go.
Wait, should I get spicy? Oh, the you know the okay I think the players are good. I think the people behind the players.
Okay.
I think because obviously I never worked with any of those people, so I who knows what actually went behind the scene. But no, if they had like what 4 years to be at least good once, but they failed every single time. So and then those people had like insane rosters before too, and so if they fumbled with that kind of roster multiple times, maybe they'll fumble again, kind of thing maybe.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the last question is, and we're exiting now the realm of Overwatch League. I think that's a little known fact actually about you, is that you had a big hand in the success of the United States winning the last World Cup. I think, like, if I recall correctly, like Arrow, you and Harsha coached that team.
Yes.
And this time around, like, I saw Gator and Yay. I didn't see Junkbuck. What's happened?
Actually, I did apply for. I actually applied as I can do any role. I don't mind doing the. I kind of wanted to do more general manager just because I wanted to get another coach to work with. I think just having more coaches is always beneficial, and so I kind of wanted to be general manager to have another coach on board. But yeah, because the I think it'll be hard to have that many people. Like the 2019, I think was able to work. We had like a really good people. Like even Annalyn, she was the general manager. I think she did like a really fantastic job as a general manager to be able to provide us with all this like practicing facility environment and things like that. So I think a lot of it. So it was like a very. I had a really good experience working with all the people involved, like with Harsha and Arrow, and so I kind of wanted to have that kind. So in the end, I kind of wanted to work with the people I wanted to work with. But then that's probably gonna be really hard to do unless like I'm already at the general manager role, and be able to. But I didn't mind doing the head coach as well. But yeah, I didn't. I guess I didn't get it. I guess since I already won, I guess they didn't want me to give it to me. They wanted to have new faces, I guess. Who knows? But yeah, probably. So, but actually, in the beginning, I was kind of like on the fence about it. Should I do it or not? It's also in the middle of the season. The break. If I should value all the break I get in the middle of the season because it gets very tough and crazy. So I was kind of do it off like in the fence about it, but I was thinking, if I get, I'll be able to work with like Danteh again. I'll be able to work with if I were to get to work with the people I like, maybe it'll be a fun experience. And didn't work. So
For sure. Now this leaves you in a position where you could theorize who you would pick, right? Because okay, here's my problem with this year's World Cup. I feel like the 6 best teams you could make out of all the Korean players would still win the World Cup. And it's really hard for any other nation to win it. And if any other nation can win it, it's probably the US. And the only way for them to win is to pick the entirety of AT plus maybe one friend. Is that wrong? Would you do anything else?
No, I think that is very fair. I think that's probably what's gonna happen. It'll be just what was it? The AT the Toronto plus like the Danteh or if Rhino comes back or
Skater. Gotta be Hawk, right? As well. I think Hawk also deserves it probably.
Yeah, like Hawk. Yeah. So it'll be that'll be my Team USA as well. Oh, let's see. Is there anyone I'm missing?
Super.
Yeah, super. Super. Once again, the best main tank in the Overwatch League.
I guess you could bring in for Genji as well, right?
Yeah. Who else? No, they're like probably like contenders people. I might consider as well, just because, I might end up doing that too. Maybe from the tryouts, the people do. Maybe if anyone looks good, but yeah,
for sure. Then I think this is a good end point. Thank you for the interview, and best of luck in the ProAm and of course in the season preparation.
Thank you.